Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan Metal video, and in this video we are going to be doing the Virtual Dokkan Ultimate Clash. Now this video is going to be a bit different to all the other ones. This is going to be a bit more of an instructive video on how to do Ultimate Clash in general. So I've kind of nerfed my teams a little bit. I've removed almost all of my summonable LRs. In fact, I think I've removed all of my summonable LRs and replaced them with free-to-play cards, just so we can kind of see a bit more of a reasonable expectation of how you can fight these battles. So as always, we want to start the first battle with the Team Ginyu Force. You're going to need the 2 LRs that come from the Bubba shop with the Ultimate Clash currency. That being the Tech Ginyu, who you can get a copy of from farming all the other Ginyu Force members, and of course getting Frieza to 100% in his hidden potential, the Prime Battle Frieza. And then of course you also have the physical Ginyu, who you buy with currency. Now this first fight's never really that hard. The enemy is only immune to stunning. It's Tao and he's a strength type, but what the first battle does is the first battle essentially indicates what the final battle is going to be. So if Tao is strength type, that generally means that the final boss is strength type, and that's the easiest way to check. In terms of Ultimate Clash right now, the final boss is Golden Frieza. Golden Frieza takes reduced damage from extreme types, so instead of running one extreme AGL and one super AGL team, you're going to want to run double AGL teams when you are building for the Ultimate Clash. That being said, this first fight should be pretty straightforward. The Ginyu Force I always use to handle the first fight. The reason I don't use Team Bardock is because the only way to really use Team Bardock effectively is to either have the Bardock Tiwa that falls under the low class warriors and Team Bardock category and run him as a lead, or you have to keep one of your copies of the LR Bardock, which I haven't, and you have to use both of those as leads while you run the team. So that's really the only reason I don't use them. Otherwise they're a bit more of a better option than the Ginyu Force. That being said, the Ginyu Force handle this first fight every single time perfectly fine. The more investment you put into the Ginyu Force team in terms of equipment, link leveling, things like that, the easier it's going to be for them. But generally I don't have any problems with the Ginyu Force team. It's just one of the slower fights, so to say. But I mean, it's all perfectly fine. So in terms of this video, like I said, I kind of want to focus on team building help in terms of just talking about not having summonable LRs in every single corner. The thing with Ultimate Clash is you have to be level or rank 150, meaning you kind of have to have some kind of a decent box, even if that's free to play cards or anything like that. The point is the easier stage like this one in this first round, you can clear with quite a new box. And the reason I say that is because just clearing the stage 10 times is going to net you some stones and kais and everything like that. So really it's kind of like, how do I say, it's kind of imperative that even if you can't finish the whole of Ultimate Clash, that you do finish the stages as much as you can, because that's really going to allow you, especially finishing 10 times is going to give you an Elder Kai and everything, but that's really going to allow you in terms of performance and just getting some rewards. So the next one is reduced received damage, immunity to being stunned, immunity to ceiling, disables attack and defense reduction. The easiest way to kill these kind of enemies, these tankier enemies, is to take a high crit lineup. So whether that's units that have innately a high crit chance, or whether that's units you yourself have built to have a high crit chance, having high crit chance will make these fights go a lot smoother. As you can see, we have the 2 free-to-play LRs in the, well, the 1 free-to-play LR in the form of First Form Cell, and the World Tournament LR in the form of Demon King Piccolo. We do have the SS3 Broly lead, but other than that, we have a pretty straightforward team with a free-to-play Lord Slug. In terms of team building for this, you will notice I'm using mono-type leads or like generic super or extreme class type leads for the most part. Like in this situation, I'm using a combination of Frieza, who is an extreme class lead, and Broly, who is a tech class lead, tech type lead. The reason you kind of wangle these cross things is because you really, these cross team categories, is you really kind of want to focus on mono teams being like either super tech or extreme tech or super strength or extreme strength, etc., because that's really where you're going to like net the best effect, where you're going to be the most productive in terms of taking on these stages. It's kind of like a baby version of the Gods of Destruction event, if that's like the easiest way to describe it. So that's probably the best way to put it, is it's basically a super easy version of the Gods of Destruction event. So any kind of team building that you take into those events, you're going to want to take into this event. Obviously new players won't be doing the Gods of Destruction event, so that's why I'm trying to show somewhat of a, maybe not exactly the same team, because it's going to be difficult for new players to get things like an LR Demon King Piccolo. You know, world tournaments don't come around every day, and you have to at least place decently at them, and things like that. So overall, yeah, I'm trying to give somewhat of an idea, but obviously please try and build your teams as best you can. There are workarounds. You can do things like building a pure Saiyans only physical team or something like that. So there are ways to work around it. Just try and apply your mind to make the best mono team that you can, and you should be able to come out pretty well at the end, is what I'm saying. So yeah, beyond that, obviously we've got the tech team here. There's nothing really much we can do strategically. We're just trying to make sure that we get as much crit chance as we can. Free-to-play units help with a lot of these crit team builds, because you can build a lot of free-to-play units to be exactly what you want, and because you can rainbow them, that means getting them stuff like high crit chance and all of that is pretty straightforward and pretty easy to do, and helps out a lot. So yeah, pretty cool, pretty straightforward, and this should be round 1 done. Round 1 is traditionally quite easy, so please try and do round 1 as quickly as you can, or try it as soon as you can, I should say, because that means that you're going to be able to net some rewards. As you saw, we got some stones for the first fight. We'll get some stones for the second fight as well, but we'll also get a whole bunch of battlefield currency and some medals. Medals will be very helpful. And you get medals for clearing stage 1 over and over and over again. So it is very helpful if you're looking for some rarer medals for Awakening, or you're just low on medals in general. Try and grab that as best you can. The next team we're going to use is the Extreme Physical team. So we've got a couple options as leaders here. We've got Kula, who's the actual leader. We've got Goku Black Easy A, who's a leader. We've got Vegeta, who's 100% type lead. We've got the free-to-play Majin Buu and Babdi LR card. And then we've got a summonable Bergamo and, Deborah, who are both from the general pool. And then we have a free-to-play Android 14 and 15. Android 14 and 15 aren't so great without a Android 13, but we've just kind of taken them because they're going to be rainbowed and have decent stats. Deborah linking with Buu and Babdi is going to be our main thing. In terms of the Trunks himself, he's not really too threatening. He can be sealed, which is quite helpful. We do have a seal on the Buu and Babdi, so if you're looking to reduce the amount of damage he's going to do, definitely look to sealing him. Other than that, there's not really too much special to this fight. He's nothing crazy. He doesn't do insane damage on his super attack or anything like that. So overall, there's nothing to be too concerned about. He will fire some super attacks. Those won't hurt too bad if you're running a decent lead and you have some decent units. So you should be more than fine. Just make sure you do some decent damage. And if you can, like I said, sealing him would be great. It would help out, but it's not really the end of the world. So yeah, overall this fight's not too bad. It's not too difficult. It's pretty straightforward. Deborah and Babdi and Buu link pretty well, so that's my go-to combination. For those of you who don't necessarily have Deborah, any kind of Majin Buu unit will link okay with Buu. The physical Buu that has an easy A area is also a solid option. So there we go, pretty straightforward, pretty quick fight. Like I said, not too hard, even for a somewhat nerfed extreme physical team. So yeah, pretty good going overall. The next fight that we go on to will be Strength Oob, and then we will move on to the final battle of Stage 2. So far everything's been going at a decent pace. Obviously we are trying to maintain a decent pace throughout. The more difficult fights, or the fights in Stage 3, generally take a little bit longer than the fights in Stage 1 and 2. And a lot of the times fights can really depend on what your opening rotations are. I mean, we got Deborah, Babdi, and Alkula in the first round there, so we're pretty good. Oob reduces received damage, immunity to stun, immunity to ceiling, and he basically cannot have his attack lowered. Again, this is a fight where crit's going to be your best friend, mainly just because obviously all these fights, a lot of times you're going to want crit. Crit's really going to be what's going to allow you to kind of burst through their damage reduction. The only issue is, of course, these units, you know, the main thing with Ultimate Clash and with the Gods of Destruction events in general, especially for new players who are trying these events, you want to make sure that you bring decent damage. Going full defense and things like that is great sometimes, but you want to really bring decent damage. You don't want to have units that don't link too well. You don't want to be struggling in terms of damage. You really just want to focus in on that damage and just make sure that you are controlling the flow of the battle. We're fortunate in the extreme strength category. We do have a lot of really good free-to-play extreme strength cards, one of them being the Prime Battle Frieza, who is just nutty. He's a really impressive card, and so he'll do a crap ton of damage, which is really good, of course. So here we go, there's Frieza, and he's going to do, there we go, crazy damage, and done. So a very easy fight. It's very easy even for free to play, simply through the power of the strength Frieza. He is just a very impressive Prime Battle Allah, especially when he easy A's. So he just basically easily carries us through that fight. The next battle and the final battle of round 2 is going to be against Lord Slug. He reduces received damage, he grants immunity to being stunned, nullifies ceiling effect, cannot have his attack and defense disabled, and recovers HP. For the most part, this is the continuing trend. Most units can't be stunned and sealed from this point onwards. Most can't have their attack and defense lowered and things like that. There's the odd exception, but this trend really continues through. In terms of the team build here, because he recovers health, you generally want to be able to take a decent whacking of damage, but you mainly want to take units that link very well. You don't want to miss super attacks, because missing a super attack basically means he's going to recover your damage that you've done in that turn, and realistically you don't want to do that. We are going to go for a super base team here and kind of see how they hold up against him, and the reason why is because, for those of you who don't know, if you take a super team to fight an extreme enemy, they will receive increased damage against that extreme enemy, and they will take less damage from him, and vice versa. If you take, it's like a little buff to the player for taking the opposite typing, and it always exists. It's like a tiny little buff to both sides, and yeah, I mean, I think it's something like 10% or 5% or 15%, somewhere around that mark, but yeah, it's basically just an additional mechanic that's put into the game to allow you to kind of suit the narrative of heroes versus villains or villains versus heroes, and that's just something that exists. Obviously, we're taking 130% Goku, who's going to be very good. I do have him rainbowed, fortunately. We do take the SS3 Goku, who's very good for a free-to-play unit. We also avoid taking any of these super powerful LR characters. We took the free-to-play support Goku, who we've easy-a'd through Extreme Z Battle. A lot of these units are very good, these free-to-play units, but it's also like it's something that's not necessarily the easiest for a new player to get. Like, it's great to show you guys a free-to-play team and everything, but realistically you're going to need to have summoned or played the game for a while to have something like the LR Int Goku Easy Aid. You have to finish all the original SBR, then you have to do the ESBR for them, and you have to easy aim with those medals, which cost a lot of money. It's not something that new players are going to be able to do. So even though I do have him, and he obviously provides some support here to the rotation, I'm quite glad they didn't attack or anything, because it is one of those things where sometimes the free-to-play cards are harder to get. Like Prime Battle Frieza is a great card, and any player can get him, but it's a hell of a process to get Prime Battle Frieza. It's not the easiest process. So yeah, just always remember that when you see free-to-play teams or things like that, sometimes it's also, it's free to play, anyone can get them, but the process to getting them might be long, it might not currently be available. So just always keep that in mind. The next is going to be Vegeta. So Vegeta can't be sealed, can't be stunned. He can have his attack and defense lowered, but he's going to super every single time he attacks. Now, he doesn't do a lot of damage with the supers, but if you have low defense units, they're going to really cost you. The easiest way to get around this is to use units that have damage reduction. Units like this Int Final Form Frieza, who has a 50% damage reduction when guard is activated, and units that can stack defense or lower attack and defense are really going to help you out. The reason being is that lowering the attack is going to reduce the amount of damage that he does. Having healing will help sustain you, so units like Boo or Kid Boo are really going to be helpful. And then of course having damage reduction always reduces the amount of damage that super attacks do by quite a large amount. So yeah, those are kind of the three strategies that you can take going into these kind of fights, and that's really where you should focus on it. Of course, from that aspect, the Extreme Int team that I've taken is pretty strong. We do have some strong EZAs in there, even though we are running not like any LRs or anything. For the Int team, some of the EZAs are the strongest ones in general, and we just in general have a pretty good lineup sitting here. So overall, I don't foresee us having too many issues with Vegeta. We have a lot of healing coming out of the Boos. We have damage reduction from Frieza. We have decent damage across the board, and yeah, just overall we're pretty damn solid. That being said, of course, for newer players, that Final Form Frieza is probably going to be the better unit for you to use. Literally just the reasoning is that he has damage reduction, and that damage reduction is really going to help you out. So yeah, overall, definitely take a look at the Frieza. He's going to be a super solid option, and he's going to be a really good tank for you. Try and position him to take as many attacks as you can from Vegeta. Always try and place your units correctly, even if it makes you take an extra turn or two to defeat the enemy. It's better to do that than to go around losing or wasting time and having to restart, because the thing about Ultimate Clash is once you lose you have to restart all the way from the beginning, so it can be quite a pain. So yeah, just make sure you avoid that and you should be more than good to go. We do have the Prime Battle Vegeta as well. He hasn't received his EZA or anything just yet, but he's obviously still very, very good, and he's a unit that we take in. He's better after he gets hit, so it's better to actually put him in the first slot so he can get hit before he fires his attacks, because that allows him to have his full attack buff activated. But for the most part, he provides some good stats to the team, and he's going to be a solid, decently tanky option that we can just kind of float around. He's not going to tank like the best in the world, but he'll be more than fine. But yeah, overall, really quite happy with this team's performance. And yeah, the start of the third stage, the units actually have some gimmicks, which makes them somewhat interesting, especially Goku and Vegeta. But the third stage, as you can tell, is quite a step up from all the other ones. So just be prepared if you do get here, that you just need to make sure that you stay calm, that you select the right team, don't rush anything, don't worry about finishing everything super quick, and just make sure that you get everything done. But that's Vegeta out the way. We'll probably move on to Goku next, and then we'll see where we go from there. But yeah, not too difficult, old Vegeta there. So now we'll move on to Goku, and we'll see how he is in terms of battle. Goku is a big pain. So what Goku does is Goku essentially only fires off one big super attack once every 2 or 3 turns. He has a little counter that will show up. You can seal him, and that's the main strategy. The main strategy is definitely to keep Goku consistently sealed. I haven't brought a sealer, so the only way around this is to take units that have a high damage reduction. Units like SS3 Vegeta, Pan, Topo, who has damage reduction under a certain threshold, or units that have big evasion are going to be super helpful. But otherwise, the way you're really supposed to take on the stage is to bring a sealer. For strength or super strength, a good sealer is the Chi-Chi, the World Tournament Chi-Chi. Keeping Goku sealed will prevent him from firing off his Mega Attack. His Mega Attack, for the most part, will do crazy damage. Even to super good units like a la Vegeta, it'll still do something like 200k or 180k or something. So for the most part, if you're not running like a super beefy, super strength team, he is going to be able to cause some serious damage to you. And his counter gets lower and lower after each one. So the first is 2 to 3 turns, and the next one is like 2 turns, and then the one afterwards is like a single turn. So it is one of those things, and you have to keep him consistently sealed. because he does store these attacks. So if you don't seal him and the counter's gone down, he will just dish out like 2 of them in a row to you. So yeah, pretty nuts. But Pan provides some healing, which is great. She's going to keep us afloat. And we do have a very decent team here. We've got the SS4 Goku, 55%. He's going to be more than fine. He's going to be a big source of our damage. And then we also have Krillin, who's great. He has 50% guard when his, 50% damage reduction when his guard is up, which makes him a super tank in this kind of scenario. We have B-Pan as a tank. We have SS3 Vegeta as a tank. We have Android 18, who's going to be super reliable and a good source of damage for us. And yeah, overall, just decent team here. We're not going to struggle too badly. We should be okay as long as we position well enough and we don't get too unlucky. We should be fine to take one of Goku's mega attacks. But to take one of Goku's attacks, you're really going to need one of these damage reduction units to take it. You'll see why when he fires it off, but these units just take a crap ton of damage from Goku if they get hit by it. Like even a unit like B-Pan, which has great damage reduction and everything, she will like take a lot of damage. She's going to take like 100k, which is a lot for B-Pan. We'll activate her active skill as well, just so we can get the damage buff. And then, yeah, that'll give us a decent clue. B-Pan will probably get hit here. Like I said, it's 2 to 3 turns, so he fires it off usually in the 3rd turn. So B-Pan should get hit. Most of his attacks are concentrated to the front. There we go. See? And she's going to take quite a chunk. Yeah, 92k. 92k is a lot for B-Pan. Remember, she's got permanent guard now. She's got permanent damage reduction now. So that is a lot. She will heal it up because she's very good in that sense. She gives us 30% back of our damage as health. So overall, we handle everything fine, but it is a lot. It's a lot of damage. I mean, any other unit would have been taking almost 200, over 200, somewhere around there. Like, it's a lot of damage to take. So, and he lowers your defense afterwards. So he's just hitting you in the face with even more damage afterwards, just to piss you off. So, yeah, he is pretty interesting. I like these kind of mechanics, so I find them quite interesting. And yeah, beyond that, though, everything's perfectly fine. Vegeta will fire off an attack here, and then we should finish him off with the Android 18. So it wasn't too bad. It wasn't even without a seal, we managed to finish the fight. Like I said, it just made things a little bit more difficult and means you have to take damage reduction basically to finish the fight. So yeah, that's pretty much the only pain in the ass. But yeah, so that's the top 2 done. Then we'll move on to the Int Metal Cooler, and then afterwards we'll move on to the AGL Hirudegon. So for Int Metal Cooler is basically just another form of Lord Slug. He's basically reduces received damage, immunity to being stunned, immunity to being sealed, recovers HP. You can lower his attack and defense unlike Lord Slug, but his heal is a bit more potent and he does a little bit more damage. But overall, the free-to-play physical lineup is pretty strong. We're going to be running a Gotenks and a Gohan lead. Gohan is another ESBR special, so it's quite difficult to get him. So unfortunately, for those of you who are looking for easy leads, you're better off using something like a Vegeta if you have it, or any other 90% physical lead or above should be fine. The main source of damage will be the Master Roshi and Goku combo. They're going to pretty much carry the damage overall. Krillin will be fine. He's just going to be here as a kind of defensive mechanism. Prime Battle LRs, like I said before, are quite strong in these Virtual Clash, Ultimate Dokkan kind of events, because with the lower leads, the designated stats and the passive make them stronger. When you have a lower lead skill, that 40,000 defense in your passive really starts to show its value. Overall, of course, Goku will do some decent damage, and having a couple of Turtle School units in the form of Goku and Krillin means we have the revive from Master Roshi if things do manage to get super dicey. But other than that, we should be perfectly fine. This team won't have too many issues. The important thing, again, as always, when you fight units that regenerate health, is to make sure that you're constantly getting super attacks. Constantly getting super attacks means you're going to be able to out damage the heals that the unit does. Obviously, there's other mechanisms you can use if you crit or anything like that, or those sort of conventions are perfectly fine. Counter units are pretty strong as well, because generally these regen units attack a lot in a turn, and when they attack, obviously being able to counter it helps you to constantly whittle down their health. Anything that allows you to basically constantly negate the effects of their heals going to help you out, because if they're like Cooler, they heal quite a lot. They heal pretty much once a turn, and Cooler does some decent damage. I mean, look, he's gonna hit the Great Saiyamans for 70 mil, then he's gonna heal up a bar and a half, and just kind of continue that trend. 70 mil, I mean 70,000. 70 mil would make me dead, very dead. So yeah, but overall, really not too difficult. It's a lot easier than the Goku. It's very weird, because I always find that there's always one unit in the third round. It's really not that difficult or that interesting. And Cooler's kind of that unit. Like, he's just he's okay. Like, he's just there. Like, he's a little bit annoying, but he's not really annoying enough for me to think, oh no, it's Cooler. Like, it's just really more like, oh well, I hope it doesn't take me 5 minutes and takes me 2 minutes kind of thing. So yeah, it's a little bit disappointing, but it is what it is. As you can see, he'll heal up another bar, and yeah, but the free-to-play Goku has some evasion, which would help, but he doesn't actually trigger it. So he's just basically testing my patience, but that's okay. Like you can see, he does pretty well. He is rainbowed, which helps him out quite a bit. But overall, like I said, this really wasn't too hard an event. The Great Saiyaman really help here because of that 4 key that they give allies in the rotation, plus the additional defense really helps them beef up the lineup. Master Roshi's great as well. He's a free-to-play card from the 6th anniversary, and he does some really good damage. Plus his revival skill really helps, considering the fact that you can bring 2 Turtle School units quite easily into the battle. So yeah, overall pretty cool. And yeah, a nice team now looking for the super physical. The next is Hirudegan. Can't seal, can't stun. You can lower his attack and defense, but really with Hirudegan you are going to just be annoyed by his evasion. The easiest way to get around evasion is to bring units that additional attack. The more attacks you make, the more attacks will hit, basically. He's not too strong, he's a bit glass cannon-y, old Hirudegan. He can do some decent damage when he supers as well, so you do want to be wary of that. But the main modus operandi when you're fighting him is to essentially make sure that you're firing as many damn super attacks as possible into big old Hirudegan. That's going to be the best way for you to whittle down his health, because that even if he evades, if his evasion is 60% and you're firing 10 super attacks, you're going to hit 4 of them. If his evasion is 60% and you only fire 5 super attacks, you're only going to hit 2 of them. I know that seems like simple math, but that really is what it boils down to. The more super attacks you throw his way, the more chance you're going to have of hitting him. His evasion is actually quite annoying, meaning that it actually procs a significant amount of times that you kind of realize it's there, and that's really the main issue. There we go, there's 1 evasion, then there's going to be 2 evasions. I'm quite annoyed with some of the animations of units. It looks like they're about to hit him, but they're really not. And yeah, some of the animations gone, especially with the longer animations now, they're gone for like 2 or 3 seconds before the evasion notification pops up, rather than back in the day when it used to be like, oh well, basically, oh he's dodged, oh he's dodged, oh he's dodged. So yeah, but beyond that, really nothing else to this fight. Like I said, he can hit relatively hard, but you're not too concerned about that, because yeah, he can hit relatively hard, but it's nothing too concerning. As long as you bring a decent enough lineup, you should be okay. We do have really good units like the free-to-play Goku here, who's also a Prime Battle Easy Air, so difficult to get, guys, difficult to get, but still very, very good. This free-to-play Goku and Gohan, Goku's family support's also very good. They lower attack. So overall, some ways to manage him. Lowering his attack on your super attacks is also going to help, because then each time you hit him with your super attacks, when you actually hit him, you are going to be able to reduce the amount of damage he does to you, which is obviously very beneficial. But like I said, just make sure your team links up decently enough and that you get enough super attacks fired on them, and you should be more than fine. You won't struggle too much with this event, and you should be more than okay. Boo and Hercule are a very good card because they're a 100% all types lead, which is good, but they also generate their own key, which is super helpful as well. So overall, pretty solid performance. That being said, obviously, the Master Roshi and the Tien are a great free-to-play option. They fire off multiple super attacks, and they also lower attack and defense, so they're a great option to have as well, and they finish them off there. Now we get to the super fun bit. We get to the Strength Golden Frieza. So Strength Golden Frieza is by far harder than the rest of the bosses put together. It reduces received damage, immunity to being stunned, immunity to being sealed, nullifies attack and defense reduction, guaranteed to seal one of your units each turn, and reduces damage received from extreme class. So we have to use only Super AGL basically, or Super base classes. They are going to be the only units that can really take them on. In terms of team building, so we're going to try our best to go for a free-to-play team, but Frieza is quite difficult. So you are going to need to kind of curb your expectations. If you're looking to run like a pure free-to-play team, you could possibly do it 100%, but you make your life a lot easier if you build in with some summonable units. Overall, the team build here right now is pretty good. We are going to run a Goku SS2 for healing. We've got the AGL SS4 for some damage. We've got the Gogeta, the transforming Gogeta. DFE, he's also going to be a decent selection. Frieza's biggest thing is his super attack, so he does some decent damage and everything, which is great, but his biggest thing is his super attack. Super attack does a lot of damage, but also massively lowers defense, which means the unit that gets hit by it, if he's getting hit afterwards, is going to take a huge chunk of damage. The way to mitigate this is essentially to either have A, damage reduction, which is quite difficult to do, B, out damage him, which is generally the approach, especially on all LR teams, or C, to bring healing. So the way we've countered this is we have brought the Goku, the SS2 Goku, who's going to do some healing for us. He heals quite a bit with each orb that he gets, so having him is really going to help us out in terms of healing up and just repairing some of the damage that we go through from Frieza. We've got the SS3 Easy. He's going to be a good source of damage, and he's moderately tanky. And we do have Tapion Hirudegon, who's going to transform, and we're going to give Frieza a bit of the treatment that the Tech Hirudegon gave us. The main thing when you get giant form transformations like this is really not to worry about trying to get them super attacks unless you have it built in or anything, or they have those passives that help correct it. I try to keep the orbs as best I can for the other units that can use it the turn after to heal me or anything like that. And I just basically allow the additionals or anything like that to take place and cause the super attacks. Because the giant forms aren't going to do too much damage, not going to do crazy damage or anything. I'm not too concerned about getting super attacks from them. And yes, it's free damage, but it's more just the prevention of damage that's the big thing. As you can see, because Hirudegon is an extreme type, he's not even doing like massive damage to Frieza. And because of that, it's kind of an issue. So there's no real point getting him super attacks, because like I said, it's not doing the full damage to Frieza anyway, it's doing like bit part damage. If we were to get full supers with every single rotation of Hirudegon, we'd maybe do like a bar of health, which isn't worth it if you think about it, because you can't heal off the orbs or anything, so try and save the orbs if you can. But yeah, beyond that, pretty much a straightforward fight. We got the Hirudegon transformation because we're at like 49.5% health, and it happens when you fall below 50%, which obviously is helpful, but also isn't necessarily the greatest thing, because like I said, we're not getting too much damage out of it. We've managed to take scalp off half a bar, which is great, but we've also prevented a whole bunch of orbs, which you can see here. Even though I tried my best to keep them, Hirudegon stayed out for 3 turns, not 2. So yeah, it is one of those things. But I mean, it got to share off some damage without us taking it. It got to take out some health without us taking damage. So at the end of the day, I can't complain too much. You know, it's not like we being unfairly treated or anything. It's still obviously a big bonus. It's still a big help. So yeah, definitely more than fine. Definitely more than happy with this performance from Hirudegan and them. But yeah, that's really kind of it in terms of the team performance. The Tapion's going to just tank. That's essentially what he's doing, and we're just going to try and feed some orbs into the Vegeta and into the Goten. You'll see that I'm focusing on getting as many same type orbs as possible to keep the healing up. So that's really one of the things you want to focus on. You really want to get same type orbs because you really need to heal, like really badly, because you need to keep your health up to prevent Frieza from whittling you down. Obviously Vegeta's a big source of damage, and he's helping us burst through Frieza at a decent clip, so that is something that you want to keep in mind, because if you don't take out Frieza at a decent pace, it's really going to be an issue for you. And the reason is because Frieza just does so much damage. It's very difficult to maintain a constant like sense of, oh, you know, I'm constantly going to be able to out heal this, unless you are rocking LRs or LRs with dupes, or, you know, better leads and things like that. Like if I was rocking my full Super AGL team, then yeah, I probably wouldn't have any issues. But it is just important to note that you need to make sure that you are still performing decent damage. Performing decent damage is really what's going to help you get through the stage. Just kind of trying to turtle it out isn't really going to work. You can't control who's getting supered, you can't control who's getting sealed. If you have units that rely on supering to generate their defense, that's not going to help you at all. So yeah, it's a very difficult situation to be in, to just say, well, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to do this and then it's going to be fine. So yeah, it's a little bit challenging from that aspect, and just make sure that you are constantly doing damage. That's what's really going to help you out. As you can see here, we are taking a lot of damage, but we're still managing to keep up some decent damage. Unfortunately, Whis is going to take a super attack here, which is probably our worst unit to take one. Fortunately, we have Tapion in the next turn, who's going to be able to soak up damage. And we have Vegeta, but I'm not going to be able to get, you know, any form of like key or anything with Vegeta, which is a bit of a problem. You know, that's one of the issues with this kind of team build I went with. I don't link too well, and as always, not linking is a big issue. Not being able to link doesn't help you. Fortunately, our units weren't hit by super attacks before, so they don't have low defense, but you can still see how much damage Frieza's doing. We're going to get the transformation from LR Gogeta, from DFE Gogeta to UR Gogeta, and yeah, this is going to help us out. What we're going to do is we're going to place Gogeta first. We're not going to be able to get the key, but we're going to basically just give him the orbs. He should do enough damage with his critting, but he doesn't, and then he dodges, so we get very lucky. Get very lucky here. He doesn't get an additional, which would have killed Frieza. I think he only fires off one attack, and that's a big issue, which is very unlikely for him to get an additional, by the way. And then Frieza fires the attack, and then he gets the evasion, so that's actually what comes in clutch. And we managed to finish out the event with the Angel SS2 Goku. But yeah, very intense fight. Very good fight to end off the Ultimate Clash. And well, once you've done that, you should be able to claim all of your rewards. But yep, that's it from me, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. But until then, stay safe, cheers, and bye.